The Man Who Sold Rope to the Gnoles by Margaret Clair. Taken from the book Appendix N, The Eldritch Roots of Dungeons and Dragons, edited by Peter Babergal. The Man Who Sold Rope to the Gnoles. The Gnoles have a bad reputation, and Mortensen was quite aware of this. But he reasoned, correctly enough, that cordage must be something for which the Gnoles had a long unsatisfied want, and he saw no reason why he should not be the one to sell them. What a triumph such a sale would be! The district sales manager might single out Mortensen for special mention at the annual sales force dinner. It would help his sales quota enormously, and after all, it was none of his business what the Gnoles used cordage for. Mortensen decided to call on the Gnoles on Thursday morning. On Wednesday night he went through his Manual of Modern Salesmanship, underscoring things. The mental states through which the mind passes in making a purchase, he read, have been catalogued as 1. Arousal of interest. 2. Increase of knowledge. 3. Adjustment to needs. There were 7 mental states listed, and Mortensen underscored all of them. Then he went back and double-scored number 1, arousal of interest, number 4, appreciation of suitability, and number 7, decision to purchase. He turned the page. 2 qualities are of exceptional importance to a salesman, he read. They are adaptability and knowledge of merchandise. Mortensen underlined the qualities. Other highly desirable attributes are physical fitness, a high ethical standard, charm of manner, a dogged persistence, and unfailing courtesy. Mortensen underlined these too, but he read on to the end of the paragraph without underscoring anything more, and it may be that his failure to put tact and keen power of observation on a footing with the other attributes of a salesman was responsible for what happened to him. The Gnoles lived on the very edge of terra cognita, on the far side of a wood which all authorities unite in describing as dubious. Their house is narrow and high, in architecture a blend of Victorian, Gothic and Swiss chalet. Though the house needs paint, it is kept in good repair. Thither, on Thursday morning, sample case in hand, Mortensen took his way. No path leads to the house of the Gnoles, but it is always dark, and it is always dark in the dubious wood. But Mortensen, remembering what he'd learned at his mother's knee concerning the odour of Gnoles, found the house quite easily. For a moment he stood hesitating before it. His lips moved as he repeated, "Good morning, I have come to supply your cordage requirements," to himself. The words were the beginning of his sales talk. Then he went up and rapped on the door. The Gnoles were watching him through the holes they had bored in the trunks of trees. It is an artful custom of theirs to which the prime authority on Gnoles attests. Mortensen's knock almost threw them into confusion. It was so long since anyone had knocked at their door. Then the senior Gnole, the one who never leaves the house, went flitting up from the cellars and opened it. The senior Gnole is a little like a Jerusalem artichoke made of India rubber, and he has small red eyes which are faceted in the same way that gemstones are. Mortensen had been expecting something unusual, and when the Gnole opened the door, he bowed politely, took off his hat and smiled. He had got past the sentence about cordage requirements and into an enumeration of the different types of cordage his firm manufactured, when the Gnole, by turning his head to the side, showed him that he had no ears. Nor was there anything on his head which could take their place in the conduction of sound. Then the Gnole opened his little fanged mouth and let Mortensen look at his narrow, ribbony tongue. As a tongue it was no more fit for human speech than was a serpent's. Judging from his appearance, the Gnole could not safely be assigned to any of the 4 physio-characterological types mentioned in the manual, and for the first time Mortensen felt a definite qualm. Nonetheless, he followed the Gnole unhesitatingly when the creature motioned him within. Adaptability, he told himself. Adaptability must be his watchword. enough adaptability, and his knees might even lose their tendency to shakiness. It was the parlour the Gnole led him to. Mortenson's eyes widened as he looked around it. There were whatnots in the corner, and cabinets of curiosities, and on the fretwork table an album with gilded hasps. Who knows whose pictures were in it? All around the walls, in brackets, where in lesser houses the people display ornamental plates, were emeralds as big as your head. The Gnoles set great store by their emeralds. All the light in the dim room came from them. Mortenson went through the phrases of his sales talk mentally. It distressed him that that was the only way he could go through them. Still, adaptability. The Gnole's interest was already aroused, or he would never have asked Mortenson into the parlour. And as soon as the Gnole saw the various cordages the sample case contained, he would no doubt proceed of his own accord through appreciation of suitability to desire to possess. Mortenson sat down in the chair the Gnole indicated and opened his sample case. He got out henequen cable-laid rope, an assortment of ply and yarn goods, and some superlative slender abaca fibre rope. He even showed the Gnole a few soft yarns and twines made of cotton and jute. On the back of an envelope he wrote prices for hanks and cheeses of the twines and 550-foot lengths of the ropes. Laboriously he added details about the strength, durability and resistance to climatic conditions of each sort of cord. The senior Gnole watched him intently, putting his little feet on the top rung of his chair and poking at the facets of his left eye, now and then with a tentacle. In the cellars, from time to time, someone would scream. Mortenson began to demonstrate his wares. He showed the Gnole the slip and resilience of one rope, the tenacity and stubborn strength of another. He cut a tarred hemp rope in two and laid a 5-foot piece on the parlour floor to show the Gnole how absolutely neutral it was, with no tendency to untwist of its own accord. He even showed the Gnole how nicely some of the cotton twines made up in square knotwork. They settled at last on 2 ropes of abaca fibre, 3/16 and 5/8 of an inch in diameter. The Gnole wanted an enormous quantity. Mortenson's comment on these ropes, unlimited strength and durability, seemed to have attracted him. Soberly, Mortenson wrote the particulars down in his order book. But ambition was setting his brain on fire. The Gnoles, it seemed, would be regular customers, and after the Gnoles, why should he not try the Ghibellines? They too must have a need for rope. Mortenson closed his order book. On the back of the same envelope he wrote, for the Gnole to see, that delivery would be made within 10 days, terms were 30% with order, balance on receipt of goods. The senior Gnole hesitated. Slyly he looked at Mortenson with his little red eyes. Then he got down the smallest of the emeralds from the wall and handed it to him. The sales representative stood, weighing it in his hands. It was the smallest of the Gnole's emeralds, but it was as clear as water, as green as grass. In the outside world it would have ransomed a Rockefeller or a whole family of Guggenheims. A legitimate profit from a transaction was one thing, but this was another. A high ethical standard, any kind of ethical standard, would forbid Mortenson to keep it. He weighed it a moment longer. Then with a deep, deep sigh, he gave the emerald back. He cast a glance around the room to see if he could find something which would be more negotiable, and in an evil moment he fixed on the senior Gnole's auxiliary eyes. The senior Gnole keeps his extra pair of optics on the 3rd shelf of the curiosity cabinet with the glass doors. They look like fine dark emeralds about the size of the end of your thumb, and if the Gnoles in general set store by their gems, it is nothing at all compared to the senior Gnole's emotions about his extra eyes. The concern good Christian folk should feel for their soul's welfare is a shadow, a figment, a nothing, compared to what a thoroughly heathen Gnole feels for those eyes. He would rather, I think, choose to be a mere miserable human being than that some vandal should lay hands upon them. If Mortensen had not been elated by his success to the point of anaesthesia, he would have seen the Gnoll stiffen, he would have heard him hiss when he went over to the cabinet. All innocent, Mortensen opened the glass door, took the twin eyes out and juggled them sacrilegiously in his hand. The Gnoll could feel them clink. Smiling to evince the charm of manner advised in the manual, and raising his brows as one who says, "Thank you, these will do nicely," Mortensen dropped the eyes into his pocket. The Gnoll growled. The growl awoke Mortensen from his trance of euphoria. It was a growl whose meaning no one could mistake. This was clearly no time to be doggedly persistent. Mortensen made a break for the door. The senior Gnoll was there before him, his network of tentacles outstretched. He caught Mortensen in them and easily wound them flat as bandages around his ankles and his hands. The best abaca fibre is no stronger than those tentacles, though the Gnoles would find rope a convenience. They get along very well without it. Would you, dear reader, go naked if zippers should cease to be made? Growling indignantly, the Gnoll fished his ravished eyes from Mortensen's pockets and then carried him down to the cellar to the fattening pens. But great are the virtues of legitimate commerce. Though they fattened Mortensen sedulously, and later roasted and sauced him and ate him with real appetite, the Gnoles slaughtered him in quite a humane manner, and never once thought of torturing him. That is unusual for Gnoles. And they ornamented the plank on which they served him with a beautiful border of fancy knotwork, made out of cotton cord from his own sample case.